Howdy. With this video, I want to go over MLA formatting in general. I'll show you how a Works Cited page works, how citing works. Hopefully, if you're kind of new to MLA formatting or if it's been a few years, you can kind of start catching on to what's going on there. A good place to start is going to be the sample research essay. It's based on a similar assignment. You're going to notice she doesn't use images in hers, and probably a little longer than yours might end up being, but you can make that a little bit bigger. And I kind of explain why I picked this paper. It's an older paper, kind of shows a little distance between us, which is kind of nice. With MLA formatting, it stands for Modern Language Association. You're basically trying to do two things. You want to credit sources when you use them. It's not nice to take somebody else's work and present it as your own, right? It's called plagiarism, and it's a good way to fail a class. We don't want to do that. But you want to be careful of unintentional plagiarism, just kind of cutting and pasting and not giving credit. That's a bad thing in academic writing. Also, you want to use sources fairly. As bad as stealing someone's work is also putting words in their mouths that they didn't say. So you want to be accurate with the way you use sources. Make sure you don't misrepresent what the source says. But with the sample essay that's up there, you're going to notice I'm going straight to the end of the essay here because MLA papers generally start with a Works Cited page. If you can get the Works Cited page going first, citing sources in your essay is pretty easy. And you're going to notice a few things about the Works Cited page. If you're old like me, we used to call these bibliography pages. In fact, we still do sometimes. But in MLA formatting, it's called a Works Cited page because it's the works you cite in your essay. You're going to notice a few things. One, everything's double spaced. It's in alphabetical order. Do not number Works Cited page entries. Don't use bullet lists, just alphabetical order. You're going to notice a hanging indentation. When you're looking at a source and you're given all the information you're required to give and you go to the next line, it'll be tabbed over. And also important to notice the last page on your essay, and the fun part is properly formatting your sources. And that's where the angst and wailing and gnashing of teeth come into play. For the Works Cited page, there's different resources you can use to find how to do your sources. One good source, I'm going to go back to, well, I thought I was. Going to go back to the Help Resources page on the content page. There's a good Northeast State Library MLA handout that goes through MLA style. And MLA went through a big change last year. So if it's been like 2 or 3 years since you've done a research paper, MLA's changed quite a bit. I think they do that to sell books as much as to improve what they're doing, but they don't ask me, right? But this handout does a good job of taking you through, like here's a book by one author. Generally with any entry, it's going to start with the author's last name, the author's first name, a comma, then the author's first name, the title of the work, and then whatever information is required after that. If you don't have an author's name, you'll start with an article title. But this handout kind of goes through all the different, or most of the probable sources you're going to use in an essay. Neat thing when I show you Questia later on in a different video, it'll do this for you. So something to kind of take note of. But a lot of you are going to be using internet sources. So you'll kind of be down here with general websites, and you can kind of see here, there's no author for this article. It's an encyclopedia entry. And again, but you want to know where to look this stuff up. You're not going to try and memorize every different way to do a Works Cited entry. And again, this library handout's a good source. The Purdue Online Writing Lab's a good source. Your textbook's a good source. Lots of different ways there you're going to see lots of different resources you can use to find out how to do this. But again, generally you want to see the author's last name, comma, first name. If there's a smaller unit, it'll be generally in quotation marks. Then the bigger unit, like the website, will be italicized. This is, what I hit? I don't know what I hit there. Hold on. Oh, I see what I hit. Okay, you're gonna have to give Mr. Fish a second here. Actually, I've hit the URL. Scrolling down, scrolling down. You'll see here, like I said, you got the author's name, name of the web page, website. That next date is the date, last date it was updated. Then you want the web address, and then if you need it, the date accessed. If it's a website that's going to possibly change between the time you submit the essay and by the time I go to check your sources, you definitely want to put that information in there. Sometimes you will see source listings that don't have that date accessed. I'd kind of prefer it, but it's but again, if it's a fairly static site like a database or something, they're not going to change too quickly. But it can be a little overwhelming at first, but just kind of notice that basic pattern: last name, comma, first name. If it's a smaller unit, in quotation marks, bigger unit, like the smaller unit might be a chapter in a book or a web page. Bigger unit might be the book title or the website. Then whatever information is required after that. And the reason we focus on the Works Cited space so much at the beginning, and one thing you're going to do with reflection number 3 is create an annotated bibliography, where you're going to go ahead and do the Works Cited entry for your source, and then do a little short summary of that source right after that. I'll show you that here in a second. But you want to start with the Works Cited page, because when you go to use sources in your essay, all you're going to do is use the first word on the Works Cited page and a page number if you know it. So this is an essay on dementia, and she introduces a quote. Then she starts the quote with the quote marks. The average cost of caring for a patient with Alzheimer's throughout the course of the disease is $174,000. When you can see it's getting a little dated, right? It costs a lot more than that now. She ends the quote, and she has a citation there in quote marks. There's quotes around that coping because it's an article title. And I should be able to go to the Works Cited page and see coping as a first word in an entry. And if I wanted to go find that source and make sure she used the source correctly, I could do that pretty easily there, right? And that's the way it's going to work. When you use a source, whether you're summarizing, paraphrasing, long quoting, short quoting, you want to credit that source by using the first word on your Works Cited page. So there's a McNamara source there, and I come down to the Works Cited page, and there's Susan McNamara, and I can go to that source and see. I'm having trouble highlighting there, and see how that source was used in the essay and whether it was used properly. Sometimes you'll see the first word on the Works Cited page given within the introduction. Almost there. Take one more page. Yeah, there we go. Right here, for another short quote, researchers Michael Castle, Dolores Thompson, and Matthew Nathan's report. Then again, she gives the quote. Approximately 250,000 Americans are diagnosed each year. Some 2 to 4 million Americans have Alzheimer's disease. Ends the quote. Gives a page number because this is out of a book. Internet sources quite often won't have page numbers. But Michael Castle is going to be the first word on Works Cited page. And I'm sure you're getting, I hope I'm not making anybody catch vertigo here by going up and down like this. But there's Michael Castle on the Works Cited page. And that's basically how it works. The Works Cited page tells us what sources you're using in your essay. Then the citations in the essay show us where you're using those sources, right? And I'll talk about the 4 different ways to use sources in an essay in a later video. But that's basically MLA formatting in a nutshell. When you see these citations, that means she's using research in her essay. Note she tends to give good signal phrases to let us know, hey, I'm about to use a source. So like this, according to a 2-year study, that's kind of a good indication we're about to go into a source. She gives the information, and then she cites that source. And I can go to Works Cited space, see that word research, and find that source pretty quickly. But definitely take time as you're reading the sample essay to notice the commentary there. It goes through long quotes, short quotes, summary, and paraphrases. Sorry. And coming up in terms of assignments, where are we at? There we go. There we go. You're going to have to do reflection number 3. And it's going to be an annotated bibliography. And all you're going to do is, as you're researching your particular topic, and again, you're telling someone's story and putting this research into it, right? But as you do your research, I want you to go ahead and do a works cited entry for it. And then do a little summary of the source, telling us how you might use it in the essay. Or you might say, you know, it's kind of a cool source, but it's a little over my head. I might not use it. But an annotated bibliography just lists the source. Kind of lists the sources you're researching. Summarize them real quickly so you can go back to them. You're going to find after a couple of days of looking through all these data, all the databases and stuff, it can get a little dizzying, and this is going to be a good thing to have for you. But the assignment, you're just going to try and find 7 sources. Again, do the works cited entry. The online Purdue OWL's good. That library handout's good. There's nothing wrong with using an online citation generator, but make sure you check it against an authoritative source that tells you, yes, you are actually the EasyBib or whatever is actually doing this correctly. You can't just say, well, that's what EasyBib did. I was like, no, that's what you turned in. That's what I'm going to grade. So be careful there. But I'll give you an example. I'll give you I have a hard time highlighting here. I'll just stop. I'll give you the works cited entry, properly formatted, then a quick summary of that source. This is off of a paper I wrote this summer, so it doesn't really relate to a medical essay. That's kind of what I say towards the end of my summary there. But again, you're going to have 7 sources, and hopefully once you do this, all you got to do is copy and paste over to your works cited page, delete the summary, and your works cited page is done. And be ready to get going on your essay pretty quickly. But again, with MLA formatting, don't overthink this too much. Get the works cited page done, cite them properly in your essay, and life will be pretty smooth. It's easy to get kind of anxious about research and stuff, but it's really it's fairly common sense, at least in the academic world, I guess. The fun part is later on we'll move on to APA format. And again, the better you get MLA formatting down, the easier APA is going to end up being. Well, let's don't worry ourselves too much. Let's keep focus on the MLA stuff. And again, keep it simple. Works cited page, citations in the paper. You can do this. But we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.